Today is more important in world history and in the survival of the West than I think almost anyone watching will even guess, because it's the day that Donald Trump leads or chickens out. 50 days ago, the US president gave an ultimatum to Russian President Vladimir Putin, who'd been promising Trump, I'm going to make peace in Ukraine, but instead just kept bombing civilian targets, apartments, hospitals. Last week, even a British council building in Kiev.
We're very, very unhappy with him, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. We're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%.
Well, that 50 days is up today. But Putin still shows no interest in peace. Yeah, true, he flew to Alaska 2.5 weeks ago to pretend again, peace, peace, peace. But it was another con, as I told you, even though Trump seemed to believe him and told the meeting of European leaders the next Monday that included French President Emmanuel Macron, I think peace is on. And Macron last Friday said, well, time's up. And Trump had to realise now he was being played.
À l'issue de la longue réunion que nous avons eue ensemble il y a quelques semaines à Washington, l'appel a donné lieu à 7 propositions du président Poutine au président Trump. Je vais voir le président Zelensky. Si ça n'est pas tenu lundi, échéance qui avait été fixée par le président Trump, je crois qu'une fois encore, ça voudra dire que le président Poutine se sera joué du président Trump.
And now Putin too is rubbing it all in Trump's face. He's in China for a security meeting we discussed called by China, and was greeted as a huge friend by the communist dictator Xi Jinping, who supports this war in Ukraine. And this time India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi even held hands with Putin to show the world that he was perhaps on the war criminal's side and not, it seems, on Trump's now. Modi even did a group hug with Putin and Xi Jinping. It's like he knows who the real powers will soon be. So, will Trump prove him wrong or prove him right? If he gets this wrong, I tell you, India's not going to be the last country to say, whoops, I better cozy up to these rising tyrannies rather than to the US-led West. And I think we will be hugely weaker for that. Joining me is Sean Spicer, Trump's first White House spokesman. Sean Spicer, great to see you. Prime Minister Modi, the Indian leader, holding and hugging Vladimir Putin, cozying up to Xi Jinping. It's all a very public signal that is sending. How worrying is that?
I think it's probably more worrying for him than it is for us. Look, India is a huge, or the U.S. is a huge market for India. Donald Trump is tremendously popular among the Indian people. And if I were Prime Minister Modi, I'd be very careful. Look, the Indians, I dealt with them a lot when I was the assistant U.S. trade rep 20 years ago. They are very transactional. They are out for the best deal. They'll play both sides. I expect nothing less from them. But I think Prime Minister Modi has got to consider his domestic politics on this and make sure that he doesn't try to get too good of a deal at the expense of any kind of political capital that remains with him.
Yes, I don't think the Indian public is that keen on China either. 50 days is up today, and Putin still hasn't agreed to any peace in Ukraine. Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has just suggested that, yes, the president will make good on his threat. Here he is.
When the European leaders and President Zelensky were at the White House the following Monday, has done the opposite of following through on what he indicated he wanted to do. As a matter of fact, he has, in a despicable manner, increased the bombing campaign. So I think with President Trump, all options are on the table, and I think we'll be examining those very closely this week.
Sean Spicer, do you expect the president to do anything this week?
I do. I mean, look, Secretary Bessent wouldn't go out there and signal that. I've known for some time that the White House has a list of secondary sanctions and other ways of tightening the screws on Russia ready to go. The president was very hopeful on that Alaska meeting that I don't think went as well as a lot of people hoped. But I think that he is going to turn up the volume on President Putin. And it's not just the secondary sanctions, but there's a lot of financial transactions that occur where people are looking the other way. There's a role that Europe can play, a much greater role that Europe can play, who likes to talk tough, but takes Russian oil, does a lot of transactions through the SWIFT financial network that allows transactions to occur. So there's a lot of things at the president's disposal that he can do. And I think that he is going to ratchet up those sanctions and other means of enforcement. It was Secretary Bessent just a few weeks ago that said when it comes to enforcement, we're at about a 3 on the 10 scale. And I think that's about right. So I think President Trump, for a lot of reasons, somewhat, unfortunately, because Putin disappointed him in this attempt to get a peace deal, is going to want to make him feel it.
The media, Sean, that so grossly and recklessly ignored Joe Biden's obvious mental and physical decline in the White House is now insisting that Donald Trump is trying to hide something, now seems to be sick or ailing, has got blotches on his skin, he's got puffy ankles. They're demanding answers. What is going on here? What's the story?
Well, it's kind of funny because the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, a few weeks ago addressed a couple of the president's medical issues, including that little hand spot, very proactively. And it was something that, to your point, was in vast contrast with how the Biden White House not only addressed stuff, but the media proactively covered it up. Look, the president, at the end of the day, is 79 years old. He's out playing golf. He shakes a lot of hands. You get bruised. There are some medications that he has been taking to address some of the things, but it's all been explained. And I think it's sad to see, to your point, a media that literally covered up, and not only covered up, but shamed anybody that brought it up with respect to Joe Biden's physical and mental acuity, and then openly speculate about Donald Trump's medical issues, which, as I said, the press secretary has been very forthright with. But there's another thing, Andrew. I mean, over the weekend, there were a lot of internet rumors of the president's health because people hadn't seen him for like 8 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, you guys didn't see Biden for, weeks on end sometimes and no one had a problem. You don't see Donald Trump for a couple hours. I get you might miss him, but you don't need to spread false rumors about his well-being.
That's incredible, isn't it? I would have thought that some of those critics would be glad if they didn't see him for 8 hours. But it just goes to show that's the standard.
Right. They get upset when how active he is. He finally quiets down for over a holiday weekend, never mind you, here in the States. And the next thing you know, they're allowing rumors to perpetuate about his physical state or his actual state of being.
But I just think, too, I mean, the fact that they panic over a number of hours that they don't hear from him shows the unbelievable activity that's there in the White House under him, in contrast to Joe Biden. And that should answer their questions. I mean, he's been a hyperactive president in terms of policy and delivery. And there you go, the victim of his own success and energy, I think. Sean Spicer, thank you so much indeed for your time.
You bet, Andrew. Take care.